Dearest Russell Brand, first of all, I want to thank you for your philosophical observations. I was up till 4 a.m. watching your program, The Messiah Complex, and I thought about something you said about communism in Russia, and how the reason that communism failed is because people didn't follow the book right. People didn't follow the rules right. And I think we can argue that same thing about capitalism or any other philosophy. You know, I'm sure Ayn Rand doesn't look at what's going on in America and say, oh yeah, that's laissez-faire capitalism, because it's not. It's corporatism. It's a sort of soft fascism. So here's my question. Philosophical question. Why don't we take the best of all of the philosophies? And so instead of taking Ayn Rand objectivism and rejecting Marxism, or taking Marxism and rejecting Ayn Rand objectivism, instead of taking one philosophy and saying, okay, we're going to go with Karl Marx to the end, follow it right, textbook execution of communism, why don't we instead incorporate, I know it would be a fine balance, but incorporate all of these philosophies and isms and take each aspect of them that has merit. For example, if you look at Ayn Rand objectivism, she talks about the individual being heroic, the individual being a capable person who should not look to others for their comfort or their well-being or their security. And then you take Karl Marx, who talks about having equality in the distribution of economic aspects of life, of the system. Those do not have to, it might seem like they're diametrically opposed, but they're not. A prime example of that is the economic model that says the highest paid employee of a company will not make more than 10 times what the lowest paid employee is. Right there, without it being law, with it just being a simple philosophy that a company follows, everyone in the company, unless they're a saboteur, has the same interest, the same vested interest in the company succeeding. You don't have people who come in, that right there would eliminate that working class model of someone who comes in and punches in. This ridiculous idea that if we just raise the minimum wage, that will solve the problem. That won't solve the problem. The problem is that not everyone in a particular company or corporation has the same vested interest in that company succeeding, in that company progressing and being successful. But if you, instead of having this hourly wage debate, eliminate that whole process voluntarily and have instead a process where everyone who works at that company shares in the success of that company. Can you imagine someone working at a restaurant who, knowing that their activity and their positive attitude and their treatment of their customers would in turn bring more customers back, and in turn would, on payday, would benefit them immeasurably because the people kept coming back. Not because a bunch of people raised their minimum wage from $7 an hour to $9 an hour, but because the people at that company, the people at the front counter who were taking the orders for the burgers and the fries or whatnot, those people knew that by treating the customer well, the customer that was standing right in front of them, their interest would be served. They would benefit from good service. The people who didn't care, who clocked in, I mean, whatever the minimum wage is, you're going to have people who just don't care about their position. They don't care. I'm working at a burger joint. Why should I care? Well, if they knew that their paycheck at the end of the day would be bigger because they treated people well and those people came back and liked the service, you would see a much more motivated member of the team than someone who, oh, we flipped up your wage, you're out of here in 6 months, we don't care. Any type of society, any type of company would benefit from that economic model. So you take that model, and then you also, people would, in our education system, learn the complex dynamic of business, economic, and how your self-esteem, your self-value play into all of that. And I realize there's a lot of disparity out there. There's a lot of poor, there's a lot of people with complex reasons that they don't have the same access to the pie. But I think part of that is because of all the endless bickering and fighting and economic fighting amongst the political groups. So you have the rich who are doing everything they can to put their money into offshore accounts because they don't want to share it with the government or the poor or whoever. And so instead of them becoming valiant stewards of their community in investing in their community, they find offshore accounts and they find ways to hide this money so it doesn't get taken and it doesn't return into society. So yes, there are a lot of problems, but again, I think the real question needs to be asked: why do we keep proposing to follow one ism, one philosophy over another, when in truth each of these philosophies contain within them such valid points that it would, if they were held in harmony, would resolve the hardships caused by the dedication to one philosophy over another? And that is my question.